Right in the solemn corridors of Buckingham Palace, a sudden decision was secretly signed. King Charles approved the Appendix Windsor Fourth, a decree revoking Queen Camilla's private access to all royal residences. In the blink of an eye, the old locks were changed, access codes erased, and Camilla's loyal aides were replaced or reassigned without a single notice. This coldness was not only a sign of power, but also a clear warning. In the royal family, no one is allowed to stand outside the strategic game. The audience can imagine Camilla entering her familiar room, where everything remains intact. Yet suddenly all doors are closed, and all assistants avoid her gaze. Every detail, every action seemed meticulously calculated, making anyone witnessing it feel the tension and power plays among the royal members. So, Bear, was this a personal revenge by King Charles or a strategic move to protect the throne, consolidate power, and shape a new order in the British monarchy? This question haunted not only Camilla, but also the public and the media, who could not stop speculating. While Camilla was removed from the center of power, another face began to emerge prominently. Catherine, the beautiful, intelligent, and beloved princess, gradually stepping into a new position of authority. The media quickly dubbed her the People's Queen, while dramatic confrontations and past secrets from the late princess's legacy began legitimizing Catherine's role. From here, the story of power in the British monarchy opened a new chapter full of drama and surprises. To understand this power dynamic, we must follow each step, each decision, and each tense glance in the palace, where ambition, authority, and emotion are always on the brink of collision. As palace officials received orders from King Charles, a mysterious atmosphere enveloped the royal residences. The Appendix Windsor Fourth was signed in absolute silence, known only to those in the inner circle. The decree was immediately enforced. Camilla's room locks were changed, electronic access codes erased, and longtime loyal aides suddenly reassigned or replaced without explanation. Every detail was meticulously calculated, as if every door, every step in the palace was in the king's hands. Camilla entered her familiar room, her eyes scanning every object. Yet the sense of familiarity suddenly vanished. The main door was closed, and previously close assistants avoided her gaze. The coldness and calculated power were evident in every surrounding detail, weighing heavily on Camilla's heart. Shocked, betrayed, and tense, she realized that every privilege she once had, from her private room to access to confidential documents, had been stripped away overnight. In that moment, she turned to her close aide, her voice trembling. "Charles, why do this without any notice?" The question echoed in the empty room, marking her helplessness and pain. Camilla clearly felt that she no longer held any position in the center of power, and the king's every action had painted a power map in which she no longer participated. Palace staff were also bewildered. Some glanced at each other, unsure how to respond to these sudden changes. Everyone understood that a single misstep could lead to serious consequences. Meanwhile, news began leaking, and the media quickly picked up the information, describing Camilla's curtailed authority and raising questions about the king's power strategy and motives. Faint light from large windows filtered through the curtains, shadows of stone columns stretching across the floor, footsteps echoing as a reminder of the coldness of power. Camilla stood silently, clearly sensing the strangeness and pressure surrounding her, and every small detail, from the new locks to the absence of loyal hands, reminded her that in the royal family, no one is allowed to stand outside the order of power, not even the queen. The next day, Camilla withdrew to Mill House, where she could find a bit of peace and privacy. Sitting by the window overlooking the garden, she reflected on what had just happened. Her heart felt heavy, filled with both disappointment and profound loneliness. She wondered if there was any chance to regain her position, or if she had to accept an unavoidable step back. The media continued to report, with every article and headline emphasizing Camilla's isolation, creating an image of a once powerful queen now sidelined, in stark contrast to the positions of the king and other favored members. Rare photos of Camilla appeared in the press, her eyes filled with longing, making the public feel the profound shift in power. This isolation was not just a loss of access to residences or documents, it was also a reminder of King Charles's absolute authority. She understood that in the palace, titles and reputation were never a guarantee of security, and anyone, even the Queen, could be suddenly pushed out of the spotlight. Camilla entered the following days in silence, reflecting on every decision of the king, her own position, and the deep changes within the palace. The tension remained, but every small moment, from the dim light to the shadow of the columns on the floor, reminded her of the power calculations she had to face. While Camilla fell into the shadows of power, another woman silently stepped into the light of the throne. Catherine, the beautiful and graceful yet sharp-witted princess, entered the new center of power in the British monarchy. Each step she took along the palace's long corridors marked a quiet but calculated transfer of authority. The inner quartet, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Sophie, stood nearby, their eyes both supportive and observant, sending a clear message. Catherine was now not only Prince William's spouse, but also a key figure in the new power order. Catherine was led to the room where Camilla had once managed classified documents, the famous red boxes containing crucial national information accessible only to those highly trusted. When Catherine touched the deep red velvet box, a mix of excitement and responsibility surged through her. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes shone brightly, fully focused on the letters, reports, and files waiting to be opened. The sound of turning pages echoed in the quiet space, emphasizing each step she took on the path of power. She felt the weight of every decision, capable of affecting the monarchy's fate. Each document a reminder that her role was no longer symbolic, but that of a true guardian of the throne. Outside, palace officials began to get used to seeing Catherine in the central role of power. Light streaming through large windows highlighted her face, showcasing confidence that was both gentle and firm. Catherine placed each document on the desk, opened it, reading every word and number carefully, thinking while being immersed in her new responsibilities. The space was solemn, yet charged with anticipation as everyone witnessed her rise in power. The first day of receiving the red box was also the day Catherine appeared at the House of Lords, in a completely different posture. The Queen's seat was reserved for her, while Camilla's chair remained empty, silently signaling that power is not immutable. Catherine sat down, her gaze serious yet composed, while royal members and guests observed her with mixed emotions: surprise, admiration, even caution. The atmosphere was solemn and tense, all eyes fixed on her, the one now taking over the position Camilla once held. The media quickly captured the event. Major newspapers simultaneously reported on Catherine, emphasizing her step into the royal power center. Headlines appeared constantly. Catherine, the beef de Guayime, the people's queen. Princess steps into the royal throne. Her approval ratings soared. Online communities buzzed, praising her intelligence, sophistication, and political vision. Some commentators even called it a spiritual coronation, not by crown or ceremony, but through the absolute support of the public and the monarchy. Catherine became the new symbol of royal power and prestige, a stark contrast to Camilla's retreat. In a private moment, Catherine spoke with her close aide. Her voice was warm, showing determination while maintaining humility. "I only want to serve the royal family, but perhaps this is the chance to truly protect the throne." These words were not only her inner thoughts, but also a way to assert herself under new pressures. She understood that the public's eyes, media scrutiny, and the monarchy's expectations would follow every decision she made. Every action had to be carefully considered, every step a challenge to maintain her position. In the following days, Catherine gradually became familiar with the rhythm of her new power. She attended meetings, reviewed reports, and oversaw important documents that Camilla had once managed. Morning light streamed into the office as she opened files, reflecting on her face, showing a transformation from an everyday princess to a woman holding real power. The palace space seemed to shift with her rhythm, quiet yet full of life, solemn yet brimming with energy, both dignified and captivating. Palace aides and officials began to get used to the image of Catherine handling the red box. They realized that under her calm yet decisive gaze, every decision was carefully considered, never rushed. Some staff members, once close to Camilla, gradually understood that power had shifted into Catherine's hands, and they needed to adapt to the new order. Her eyes occasionally scanned faces, but never without respect. It was how Catherine maintained authority while building trust with those around her. Not only in the palace, but Catherine's public appearances also changed. At royal ceremonies, she sat in positions of power, her smile gentle but her eyes focused, always ready to grasp every situation. Television cameras continuously captured her every move, and the public began to follow her steps closely. Articles repeatedly emphasized the difference between Catherine and Camilla, one silently advancing, the other quietly retreating. This comparison further highlighted Catherine's new power and influence. Catherine did not just step into power, she skillfully maintained a close image with the public. She appeared at charity events, attended royal festivals, and conversed naturally with people. Yet inside she remained alert and strategic. Every gesture, every word was carefully considered, creating the image of a future queen both approachable and powerful. The media quickly praised her as the people's queen, and this nickname gradually became a symbol of the new role she now held. In her office, Catherine sometimes stared out the window, reflecting on her new responsibilities. The stack of documents on the desk reminded her that power always came with responsibility and pressure. She clearly felt that each step, each decision, affected not only the monarchy but also her public image and historical legacy. However, the determination in her eyes and gestures showed she was ready to embrace it all, with a spirit of service and guardianship of the throne. Each passing day, Catherine increasingly proved her position. Confidential meetings, national reports, important events, all passed through her hands, handled with skill and decisiveness. She learned to balance power and public image, responsibility and personal pressure, becoming a center of authority without losing her natural grace. And from the light Catherine stepped into, the picture of royal power in the British monarchy began to change significantly. Her rise was not only a replacement of the position Camilla once held, but also a powerful message. Power is not fixed, and those who seize opportunities, combining prestige with strategy, will become the monarchy's new pillar. With her newly consolidated status, Catherine began a journey to assert power. While Camilla still faced a bitter retreat, Catherine's gaze as she opened each document, sat in the Queen's chair, or smiled at the public, all conveyed one thing: a new monarchy was forming. And this woman was the symbol of power, spirit, and absolute public support. But new power was not built on support alone. It was tested through tense confrontations. Balmoral Castle, with its gray stone walls, towering columns, and long corridors drenched in light, became the scene of one of the monarchy's most intense internal confrontations. The atmosphere inside the castle was heavy, as if the secrets and power plays accumulated in every stone and window. Each step on the old wooden floor echoed, reminding that in the palace, quiet does not equal peace. Camilla entered the grand reception room, eyes tense, lips pressed, hands trembling slightly as she gripped the railing. In front of her, King Charles stood straight, eyes cold, saying nothing. The spacious room, with light streaming through glass panes, highlighted the gaps between them, as if the power distance had been predetermined, and Camilla realized she was on the sidelines. No aides, no explanations, just two people facing each other in a heavy space, and the silence was so chilling it felt almost tangible. Camilla could no longer remain silent. Her voice rang out, trembling but resolute. "Charles, why are you doing this to me? I have sacrificed my whole life for the royal family, and now I am abandoned." Each word carried deep disappointment, the sense of betrayal she felt from the sudden palace changes, from revoked access to loyal aides being transferred. Her words cut through the air like a blade, yet Charles remained silent. his unwavering gaze unmoved. Instead of explaining, Charles handed Camilla a small envelope. Inside was a letter from the late Queen Elizabeth, a document containing her message and the legacy of the Queen Mother's authority. Camilla opened the letter, hands trembling, reading each line as her eyes welled with tears. The content did not directly answer her questions, but emphasized the responsibility and power order the monarchy needed to maintain. The sense of being abandoned, combined with the understanding that power had shifted to another, weighed heavily on Camilla's heart. She walked to the window, looking out over the vast scenery beyond the castle. The wind from the highlands blew in, whipping across her face, highlighting the silent tears falling. Camilla whispered to herself, "I have given, endured, sacrificed, but is what I have done enough to keep my position?" In this moment, loneliness and betrayal intertwined, making all power and titles suddenly seem meaningless before her eyes. The atmosphere in the reception room grew stifling. Camilla turned to the aides, but they did not dare speak, remaining silent and waiting for the king's decision. A sense of confusion, tension, and helplessness spread. She knew that any reaction could make the situation more complicated, but her pride and sense of being slighted would not allow her to stay silent. Tears fell, blending with the dim afternoon light, highlighting the pain and tragedy of someone who once stood at the center of power, now being pushed to the sidelines. After the meeting, Camilla retreated to Mill House, where she could find a little peace in the private space she had seldom had. Sitting in the familiar room, now emptier than ever, she reflected on all that had happened. Photos, mementos, every once familiar object now seemed alien. Camilla realized that the status, power, and respect she had once held in the palace were now just memories, while Catherine, her replacement, was stepping into the light of power quietly but decisively. In the days that followed, Camilla refused to participate in royal activities, no longer appearing at ceremonies, no longer occupying a seat in important meetings. She seemed to vanish from the center of power, gradually retreating into the shadows, protecting her dignity while maintaining a small measure of privacy. Every time she looked out the window at Mill House, she remembered moments at Balmoral, Charles's silence, the letter from Queen Elizabeth, the feeling of being abandoned, and the tears still lingering on her cheeks. Camilla began to face reality. Power in the monarchy never stands still, and being pushed out of the spotlight was not just a personal failure, but a lesson reminding that no one is allowed to become complacent, even when titles and power seem secure. This retreat was also a way for her to protect herself from further internal conflicts. Even though her heart still ached from the sense of betrayal, Mill House became a place for her to rediscover herself. From the quiet rooms, Camilla reflected on all the sacrifices, efforts, and loyalty she had given to the royal family. But the question echoed in her mind, is everything I have given still worth anything? Do I still have a place in the history of the monarchy? This isolation was both a challenge and a tragedy, forcing Camilla to look back at her life, past decisions, and future choices. In the dim afternoon light of Mill House, she realized one thing: power does not always come with love or gratitude. A person can sacrifice a lifetime, but if the timing is wrong, if there is no support, power can slip away like sand through fingers. Camilla cried, but within that pain began a quiet determination, the resolve to protect her dignity and live life on her own terms, even as her position in the palace had changed. From Balmoral Castle to Mill House, Camilla's story is a vivid testament to power plays, strategic moves, and the inevitable losses in the British monarchy. Charles's silence, the letter from the late Queen Elizabeth, and Camilla's decision to retreat created a tense chain of events, both tragic and revealing about how power operates in the palace world. While Camilla stepped back, Catherine continued to consolidate her position, and power in the British monarchy gradually took shape according to the new order. Darkness of power surrounded Camilla, yet the strategic moves and timely choices of Catherine, combined with the support of the inner four and the public, ushered in a new era, where the order of power was restructured and characters had to find their place in the evolving royal landscape. As Camilla retreated, an ancient tradition once again affirmed Catherine's role. The small ceremonial room at Windsor Palace was silent, dim light filtering through stained glass windows onto the cold stone floor. The scent of candles mingled with the aged wood of walls cherished for centuries. The room was not large, but it held the full weight of royal history, every painting, every memento carrying stories of the past. Here, the long-standing secret protocol known as the Legacy Buffer Protocol was about to be activated, and Catherine would bear this sacred responsibility. An experienced aide from the inner four approached, placing the velvet box on the table, eyes respectful yet full of pride. The box appeared simple, but its simplicity concealed the weight of history. Catherine bent down, her hand lightly touching the soft velvet surface, feeling the coolness, slight elasticity of the fabric, and the exquisite stitching. In this moment, she felt her heartbeat quicken, a strange mixture of excitement and reverence. Catherine slowly lifted the lid of the box, as if afraid to disturb the spiritual forces preserved inside. Right on top, the Queen Mother's signet ring gleamed under the dim light, the metal shiny yet carrying the marks of time. The ring was not just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of power, trust, and royal tradition passed down through generations. Beside the ring lay an old envelope, thick and smooth, lying silently yet promising to contain messages from the past. Catherine picked up the envelope, feeling each edge unfold as if touching a piece of the royal history's soul. She opened the letter slowly, each word appearing before her like a continuous flow from the past, connecting to the present. The letter, in keeping with tradition, had a solemn, calm, yet powerful tone, affirming that Catherine was the guardian of the royal flame, a responsibility not only in name, but also spiritually and historically. Each sentence was a reminder. She was entrusted to maintain stability, uphold royal order, and protect the traditional values the Queen Mother had preserved. In the silent rooms found with only the soft sound of turning pages, Catherine felt the weight of every word, every message. Her heart was both surprised and moved. Part of her felt uplifted. Part of her recognized the enormous burden awaiting her, the feelings of power, responsibility, and solitude intertwined, bringing silent tears to her eyes. Catherine placed her hand on the signet ring, feeling as if she was holding a part of the Queen Mother's soul, a part of the power passed down from the past, and a part of the pledge she must uphold for life. She whispered to herself, "This flame is now on my shoulders. I must guard it with loyalty and absolute caution." Not just words, but a silent vow, a reminder that every decision, every action from now on carried a responsibility not to be taken lightly. Catherine looked deeply at the ring, imagining the generations who had worn it, the stories of honor, sacrifice, and power that the Queen Mother had experienced. An invisible bond emerged, as if past and present converged in her, and she was the bridge between these two worlds. Outside the ceremonial room, the soft sound of footsteps echoed, but Catherine did not notice. Everything around her faded compared to her focus on the box, the letter, and the signet ring. She felt history touch every fingertip, every heartbeat, and in that moment, power was not a title, but a living responsibility, both heavy and sacred. Catherine closed her eyes for a moment, letting her soul merge with royal tradition. Inhaled deeply and exhaled slowly. She felt a flow of spiritual energy emanating from the ring, a reminder that she was not alone. The values, beliefs, and balance of the monarchy had existed for centuries, and now she was entrusted to maintain them. The feeling was both reassuring and pressuring, but above all, confidence seeped into every cell, reminding her that every action from now on was important and historically significant. Catherine placed the ring on her finger, her hand trembling, but resolute. She felt its weight, yet realized that the heaviness made her stronger and more determined. The letter was read completely, each line engraved in her mind, reminding her that the royal flame was not just power, It was commitment, sacrifice, and a responsibility to both past and future. In the dim light of the ceremonial room, Catherine felt time slow down. The moments before her were not just receiving object, but a spiritual ritual, connecting her to royal history, those who came before, and the responsibility she was about to bear. She told herself that from now on, every decision, every action must be carefully considered, for power comes with responsibility, and honor is the most sacred thing she must protect. The entire room seemed to sink into silence, yet in Catherine's mind, the echoes of the past rang clearly. The messages, decisions, and values the Queen Mother preserved now passed to her, not just materially but spiritually. Catherine felt as if handed a roadmap guiding her through power challenges and strategic steps to protect the throne and maintain royal order. In that quiet moment, Catherine looked up, gazing through the small window. The evening light filtered through, creating pale rays on the wall. She felt a harmony between present and past, responsibility and power, individual and monarchy. All the pressure, all the expectations from the public and the royal family were now condensed into one mission: to guard the royal flame with absolute loyalty. The velvet box was put away, but the sense of power and responsibility it brought lingered in Catherine's heart. She understood that the next steps would not be simple. Every decision would be scrutinized under the light of tradition, history, and the expectations of generations before. Yet she also realized that her spiritual strength, determination, and intellect would help her overcome challenges, consolidate her position, and truly become the guardian of the royal flame that history had foretold. With the signet ring on her hand, the letter in her mind, and the ancient tradition as an invisible support, Catherine stood up. The heavy feeling in her heart gradually transformed into inner strength. She was ready to step out of the ceremonial room, carrying the responsibility of history, the honor of the monarchy, and her commitment to her new role. The harmony between past and present, power and responsibility, was established. From this moment, Catherine was not just a title holder, she was the protector of tradition, the keeper of the royal flame, and the shaper of the future of the British monarchy as history and the spirits of previous generations had predicted. And from the secrets of the past, we return to the present to witness who truly holds power in the British royal family. The palace has become quieter than ever. Every door, every ancient wall, every lock and access code now carries untold stories, silent yet authoritative decisions. In the light streaming through the large windows, everything seems rearranged. Power no longer resides in mere titles, but in the ability to lead, finesse, and the trust of those around you. Camilla, once seen as the center of power, now remains only a faint shadow of herself. The isolation occurs quietly, without dispute, step by step. The royal residences, where she once moved freely, are now securely locked, access codes erased, trusted aides transferred or replaced without explanation. Camilla feels the ultimate coldness, a betrayal she could never have anticipated. In a private moment, she quietly says to an assistant, "Charles, why do this without informing me?" Her voice is low and sad, carrying surprise and the pain of abandonment. No one in the palace could have guessed that King Charles' silence was his sharpest weapon of power, a warning that no one can hold absolute authority overnight. While Camilla withdraws, Catherine moves forward into the light of the throne, not hurried, not loud, but with understanding, patience, and skill. She gradually becomes the center of the royal family, receiving the red box containing national classified documents, once belonging to Camilla, is a move of symbolic and strategic weight. As she opens the box, the dim light falls on her face, each document reminding her that power is responsibility, and standing at the center of the royal family means every action matters. In the House of Lords, Catherine sits in the Queen's chair, while Camilla's seat remains empty, creating a strong image, solemn yet symbolic. The public and the media quickly react, dubbing her the Queen of the People's Hearts. Articles praise her leadership, authority combined with approachability, making her the central figure, not only within the royal family but also in the eyes of the nation. Approval ratings soar, and everyone's gaze turns to her, recognizing that true power lies not just in titles, but in trust, strategy, and the ability to maintain order amid complex forces. Not only does Catherine receive power, she also inherits sacred responsibility. The velvet box containing the handwritten letter and the Queen Mother's signet ring is entrusted to her, emphasizing the connection between past and present. The letter, in formal language, declares that Catherine is the guardian of the royal flame, carrying responsibility and expectations from generations before. As she opens the letter, she feels the words reminding her that true power is a combination of history, strategy, and trust. The ring on her hand is not only a symbol, but also a reminder that every decision will have long-lasting impact. This story reveals a profound truth. Power in the royal family does not always follow traditional order, but is influenced by strategy, relationships, and psychological understanding. Seemingly small decisions, changing locks, erasing access codes, dividing seats can completely alter the balance. Power is not only visible authority, but also silent, subtle, and precise steps, protected by history and trust. Catherine stands there, light falling on her face, looking out at the ancient pillars and carved walls of the royal palace. Every step she takes from now on will be observed. Every action will shape the future balance of power. A question arises for anyone watching. If you stand between power and sentiment, what would you choose? Is Catherine truly the queen of the people's hearts, or is she merely the result of a perfectly orchestrated strategy? This is an open question, inviting viewers to place themselves in the characters' positions, to understand that power always comes with choices and consequences. Victory in the royal family is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent, yet authoritative, marked through actions, glances, and history. Catherine receives power, but also responsibility. She symbolizes the balance between tradition and modernity, strategy and character, power and duty. The final image is etched. Catherine stands, looking out at the royal palace, light streaming through the window onto her figure, symbolizing new power and heavy responsibility. The public and the royal family realize that victory is not always about titles or noise, but sometimes about silence, precision, and authority. True power is built on subtlety, trust, and intelligent strategy, and Catherine has found her place amid all these complexities, raising the question between ambition, strategy, and heart. Which path is right? And in that moment, the story of the British royal family reveals a profound human truth. Power is responsibility, choice, and a balance between past, present, and future. Catherine is not only an heir, but also a symbol of a monarchy both preserved and renewed, leaving the next generation lessons on power, trust, and caution in every step of the throne.